Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank all of you for your lengthy and continued service to our country. It is appreciated. If none of the documents had a classification mark, as what has been asserted by many, then how would top secret special access information find its way into an unclassified email's content? Anyone can take that. Mr. Herring?
I do think this is something we should talk about in the next closed setting.
Okay. We will. If a sender of information knows that they are sending information that came from a classified source, then I guess, would that be a breach of law if they're sending it unclassified, or if they are providing the details of that information in some form in an unclass? Would that be a breach of law?
I think from my perspective, I don't want to speculate what the investigative team did here. I mean, we're
not talking intent. We're just talking about what.
Well, I mean, I think there is intent. Those things you look at in those kind of cases.
Okay.
It's very fact specific, but we're not really for the investigative team. I mean, I hesitate to.
So if they willfully know that they're taking it from a classified source to an unclassified source, is that a breach of law? Mr. Kadzik, Department of Justice.
It's hard to answer a hypothetical.
Well, this is pretty straightforward.
No case is straightforward until you look at the particular facts.
So I guess then if they didn't know, is it appropriate to have an unqualified person handle that information?
I don't know what you mean by unqualified.
Not cleared to handle that level of information, top secret sensitive access program information.
Well, there are restrictions on access, and one has to have appropriate clearances.
Absolutely.
In order to handle.
And yet, we see that we did have top secret special access program information. Is that correct?
I don't know that for a fact.
Mr. Herring?
I've not looked at this.
That really is something that's for the next closed.
Mr. Comey said in an open source here in this hearing room that it was so. And so I guess if you allow unqualified handlers to access that, then another question would be if a leader, director, or secretary directed their staff to handle secret or sensitive information in an unauthorized manner, have they breached the law?
Sir, we're here to talk about the process of getting the documents to Congress.
But it's very important because I have heard your testimony, Mr. Herring, and others that the FBI clearly was able to deduce what was sensitive access information, what was sensitive information, what was classified information, so much so that in order to guard it, they were able to prohibit even Congress from maybe seeing some of that because of its sensitivity. And we also know Department of State had those same concerns, that this was so sensitive that the skilled people that are trained at the FBI and our long-serving members of the Department of State, served from administration to administration, they were able to deduce what classified information was and what sensitive information was. And yet, we're to believe somehow that Mrs. Clinton, a former First Lady, a former United States Senator, cleared at the highest levels when she was in that capacity, and a former Secretary of State, when she was in that capacity, would not be able to really deduce that. How is that, Mr. Herring? How do you think that that could be, that you and all of your professionals in the FBI and Mrs. Fryfield and all of the professionals that are in Department of State, and that we have all of our intelligence community, they're able to deduce what that is? And when I had a top secret SCI clearance in my more than 2 decades in the military, I mean, I understood what top secret information was. How is it that all of us could figure that out, and yet we're to believe that, oh, there's no marking on it? Oh, gosh, I'm not sure. I don't know. Would you care to answer that, please?
Director Comey addressed this specifically in his testimony before this committee, and I would refer to his record for those types of questions.
Well, and that's why I asked the first questions, that how could people even gain access? How can you take it from a cleared one? We just talked about SCIF with Mr. DeSantis' question. How is it that you can take it from one place to a private server? How is it that you can take information from one secure area to an unsecure area? Cut and paste, willful rewrite, unqualified handler. These are questions that the American public has a reasonable expectation to answer, and that's why we have oversight.